going 3. We don't have no history students here. The original name of TAIFA Hall was Gloucester Hall. Our guests, welcome to University of Nairobi. Principal Secretary, Department for Industrialization, Ambassador Kiremi P. Kaberia, CDS. Karibu sana. I'm very happy to see you here after very many days. Principal Secretary, Department for Youth, Mr. Charles Sonkuri, CBS. Is he over here? Not yet. And the Group Managing Director and Group Chief Executive, Equity Holdings PLC, Mr. James Mwangi, CBS, or Dr. James Mwangi. I'm sure they will be joining us very soon. For now, we want to start. Iraqi is my name. I'll be your MC. In Swahili, Msema Chochote. We start with the anthems.
and the children shall drink from the fount of knowledge, knowledge shall surely set them free. Knowledge shall surely set them free.
Thank you very much, the choir. Asante sana. We have Johnson Kenywa. Please go to give us a word of prayer.
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we have come before your presence in this magnificent occasion that you have gathered us together, the government and the University of Nairobi, to spearhead the industrialization process in view of achieving our Vision 2030 goal of being a middle income country. Oh my Father, we pray for the PS and his team. We pray for the University of Nairobi management and the team, and our students and our stakeholders and all those who are watching us online. We pray that these particular events will bring us together and achieve our common goal of making Kenya a better country. As we steer these events, we pray for your grace and your mighty wisdom to flow out of our speakers, and we say all this believing and trusting in our holy name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson Kenywa. We can get seated. I think the choir don't go very far away. Cyrus Owiti, where are you? Yes, you're supposed to take part in entertainment before we go to the main program. Welcome, please. I'm told Cyrus Owiti is a student of law, but he has other talents. Let him demonstrate those talents to us.
Good afternoon. My name is Silas Owiti. I am a law student, a storyteller, and a spoken word artist. Now you and I are not very different from this flower. All of us have something special that makes us beautiful. Just as this flower is special, you're also special. But do you know what makes you special? Now the answer to that might look a little bit difficult to find, because life has its own cruel way of picking out petals from your flower, breaking it into pieces, and throwing it into the trash. Now, Mr. PS, guests, and my fellow flowers, I remember the first time I was broken. I was 17 years old. I had managed to flunk out of high school and failed my exams, and I managed to get arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was afraid of, and that was my mama. You see, how many of us have emotional mothers? Raise your hand if you have emotional mama. Now put them all together, you get my mama. No, my mama, I could hear her scream out of the police station. Even cops were afraid. Now she came to me, held the iron bars with her bare hands, looked at me straight into the eye, and I could see a tear flow down from her eyes. Now, mothers have three types of tears: tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother have tears of shame, it's a life-changing moment for him. So my mother looked at me to the eye and told me, "Son, I want you to be a better man." And when I went home, my father was waiting for me in the sitting room. Now, my dad is a cool dad. How many of us have cool dads in our home? Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Now put them all together, you'll get my dad. Now, my dad came to me and told me, "Son, you've already failed your exams, managed to get arrested. That's okay. You get that from your mother's side. Now, I want you to start working immediately." And he introduced me to his friend. His friend was called Sam. Now, Sam was a man who owned a timber farm with a lot of stalls. And he managed to make me his personal assistant. And I was there. He was like a teddy bear. He looked at me, and I looked. Potential. Now we have potential, but the opportunities that we have that are supposed to be in the light have been made confidential. We have potential, but when we see someone rise, we don't think it's realistic. We believe it's circumstantial. We have potential, but when posts are made vacant, we either make them unapproachable, unworthy, or nothing but commercial. We have potential when we are down, but when we get up, we forget the real attributes that made us essential. We have potential, but when we are made influential, we start making tweets that make us sacrificial. We have potential, but we look at ourselves and we have nothing else to do but to have ourselves to look alike. I say we have potential, we have potential, we have potential. But we are tired of saying those quotes from Haile Selassie, Kwame Nkrumah, Mahatma Gandhi, all my heart is singing, because they're nothing when we don't make them beneficial. We have potential, we have potential, we have potential. But we tore our attention to Tala and Branch and Mshwari, and now we use Branch to combine breakfast and lunch. We have potential, but now we have to rise up and make it actual. We have to take the stairs up and don't make it casual. Now, after all that, I discovered that I can dream. And after the results were out, I noticed that I had not really failed so much. So I was called to a university. And there are a lot of opportunities that were there, so I was confused. Which course should I choose? So I got lost. And I am sure most of us have been in that situation, where you don't know where you're supposed to be. So I went back to my cool dad and told Dad, "I'm lost." He said, "Son, you are just like your mother." And my cool dad took me to a strange course with strange people in a strange place, all in one university called Parkland campus. So I was there, and in the first lecture I was given this privilege of doing a presentation for a group, and I was sitting there, and I could see at the back seats a strange man who looked at me. He was humble, simple, and unfair condition of kindness in his eyes. He came to me when I was almost sitting down because the class was over. He said, "Brother, I can see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you manage to come here every single day, we are going to get that something." So I was there. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered that I can speak. And I became a law student, an artist, and a small business entrepreneur. Now I have experienced the situation where you don't have enough money to pay your bills. When every single time bills come to you, you're scared. And I don't know how people would like you. Sometimes I ask my campus girlfriend, "Why do you date me?" And he asks me, "Silas, I saw something in you, but I still don't know what it is." Ladies and gentlemen, I have been broken a lot of times, and if it were not for people and the opportunities that are there in this university, I would not become the person who I am. And when they bring you back and you look at the potential you have, they bring you back as a whole flower. And ladies and gentlemen, my name is Silas Branowiti, and I can see something in you, and I don't know what it is, but if you stick here, you're going to get it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Silas Owiti. Has potential, has potential, has potential. And I wish, Mr. Silas Owiti, you had also faced the other side, your back, and said, there's also potential on this side, not just on this side. Potential should be everywhere. I want to call upon the choir for a second phase of entertainment before we move on. The choir, karibuni.
Akina mama oye, oye kina baba oye, oye kijana oye, oye, akina mama oye, oye kina baba oye, oye kijana oye, oye. Wananchi wote, viongozi wote, tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Kenya ni nyumbani kwetu, tuungane sote tuijenge Kenya. Wananchi wote, viongozi wote, tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Kenya ni nyumbani kwetu, tuungane sote tuijenge Kenya. Wanaolala tutoke kwa vitendo. Respect Kenya, dada zetu, ungeni male. Respect Kenya, gozi wetu, tuwaheshi. Respect Kenya, sewa geto, na wa mashamba. Respect Kenya, bambe Kenya, makao ye. Respect Kenya, sewa geto, na wa mashamba. Respect Kenya, nchi ya Kenya. Kenya ni nchi ya Mungu. Tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Kenya ni nchi ya Mungu. Tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Wananchi wote, viongozi wote, tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Kenya ni nyumbani kwetu, tuungane sote tuijenge Kenya. Wananchi wote, viongozi wote, tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Kenya ni nyumbani kwetu, tuungane sote tuijenge Kenya. Kenya, Kenya, tushikane mikono tuijenge Kenya. Tuijenge Kenya.
Thank you very much. You can see that the audience want you to go on and on. I want to introduce our key guests today. Some may come later on and join us. But before I do that, let me remind you that this is a University of Nairobi State Department of Industrialization Collaboration Program with the theme, Harnessing the Power of SMEs and Cottage Industries, Inspiring Regional Development. It is a Youth Day post-event celebration. I want to welcome Professor M. Jesang Hashington, the Associate Vice Chancellor in charge of research, innovation, and enterprise, to welcome us to the university. Professor.
Good afternoon, everyone. Every last one of you, good afternoon. As you have heard, my name is Professor Jesang Hutchinson, who is the acting Associate Vice Chancellor in charge of Research, Innovation, and Enterprise, standing in for our Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, who had to travel out of town today. And so receive his apologies and his greetings on this very important day. I could add that this is the day that the Lord has made, and as Silas Owiti was speaking, I was reminded of a conversation that happened that one person said, I want to see the cemetery in a city such as Nairobi, and he said that is the richest part of the city. And he said, why? He said, because there are many dreams that were never realized. There are many professions that were never harnessed. There were many dreams that just went to waste. And so this day is the day that the Lord has made. We shall rejoice and be glad in it, because finally we are having this conversation that our dreams are valid. And so those on the divide of, I can say something in the youth, but I don't know what it is. And the youth saying, do you think I have something in me? And yes, and the answer is yes. So then with those few remarks, allow me to read the Vice Chancellor's speech of welcoming our dear guests, both present physically and also those who are online. And so these are the Vice Chancellor's opening remarks during the International Youth Day celebrations on the 27th August 2021 in TAIFA Hall at 2:30 p.m. The theme of our discussion is the power of SMEs and cottage industries inspiring regional development. We are privileged to have two guests that I will take an opportunity to introduce to you first before I make the speech, and that is our guest of honor, the Principal Secretary, State Department of Industrialization, Ambassador Karimi P. Kaberia, who is sitting immediately on my left. And then we also have Mr. Charles Sunkuli, who is also our Permanent Secretary, also next to him. And so there are many other guests who are joining us online. And so Ambassador Karimi Kaberia, Permanent Secretary, State Department of Industrialization. Dr. James Mwangi, the Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer for Equity Group Holdings. Mr. Julius Kirima, Director of Industry, State Department of Industrialization. I should have mentioned Charles Sunkuli, our PS, but all protocols will be observed. Online, joining us today is Dr. Juliana Mose, who is the Secretary and organizer for the Association of Kenyan Diaspora Organizations. We have a couple of panelists, faculty who are present here, entrepreneurs, the youth, both here and online, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. I'm very pleased to welcome you to the University of Nairobi, here in this beautiful hall, TAIFA Hall, to celebrate a very critical day of the International Youth Day for this year, 2021. The International Youth Day is celebrated annually on the 12th of August in appreciation of the role the youth play in tackling global issues and achieving sustainable development. And PS, as you are aware, that the youth form the bulk of our society here in Kenya. And so we belatedly join the global community in raising awareness on the problems, challenges, and also inquiring about solutions that affect our youth. In furtherance to the 1999 resolution by the United Nations General Assembly, endorsing recommendations by the World Conference of Ministers responsible for youth in Lisbon, we, together with the government and other stakeholders, have found it befitting to engage the youth in the conversations about the issues affecting them and how they can be part of the solutions, because nobody understands the youth better than the youth themselves. And as the saying goes, if you are not on the table, you are not on the menu. Sorry, if you are not on the table, then you are on the menu, one of the two. It is therefore imperative that we put the youth issues on the table. We must empower the youth with skills to solve societal problems. We need to nurture their abundant talents and create a conducive environment for youth innovations and entrepreneurship. Government policies should be geared towards ensuring that the youth have full access to education, healthcare, employment, financial services, and that they are able to improve their well-being. And this is where the University of Nairobi and other institutes come in, that we provide the data that drive policy so that the policies are evidence-based. The University of Nairobi will continue to work with government to support the Big Four agenda and by extension, the Vision 2030. We especially look forward to working with the State Department for Industrialization to promote local manufacturing through implementation of the One Village, One Product initiative. And PS, as you rightly know, because I'm so proud of you being one of the alumni, together with Sonkuli, that indeed we have faculty that are up to the task to drive that industrialization process going forward. So as the government continues to disperse more resources to the rural areas through devolution, there is hope that each region in our country shall identify unique products, both for the local market, but more so for the export market, and involve the youth in taking advantage of these lucrative opportunities in the international. In the international trade arena. For this dream to be realized, the issue of attitude on our youth is critical. The youth need a mindset change and must change their attitudes towards, for example, agriculture, attitude on entrepreneurship, attitude on informal employment, and attitude about the consumption of local manufactured products. Not to say that the University of Nairobi and other institutions of learning have been part of the challenge where we have been training amiss. But in the last 10 years, I think we've turned that curve where we are now training for fit-for-purpose students. So I want to encourage the government and the financial institutions to support the youth to have greater access to financial services, to have access to local and international markets, and to help the youth to be self-reliant by being able to generate profits while increasing employment opportunities and playing their part in addressing the rampant state of joblessness among the youth in Kenya. You see, a World Bank report of 2013 on skills development in the informal sector in Kenya concluded that the informal sector is the most important employer of youth in the non-farming sector. The youth account for a large percentage of those employed through the dual-collar sector. And this report found that workers between the age of 15 to 24 and also 25 to 34 years of age represent 42 and 41% respectively of those that were employed in the informal non-farming sector. Therefore, informal sector employs a huge percentage of the youth. The likelihood of a young worker being in the informal sector is higher than that of an older worker. In this regard, therefore, I look forward to the one village, one product to create numerous opportunities to the youth by supporting such sectors as the leather cluster, the textile market, the metal cluster, agro-processing, and many more clusters. Ladies and gentlemen, the University of Nairobi is firmly committed to playing her part in transforming our country, Kenya. We will continue to train and to produce holistic young people with competency in professional skills and soft skills that will catapult them to create impact and contribute to sustainable development in Kenya, in Africa, and across the globe, because the University of Nairobi is an international brand. Finally, I would like to give special thanks to the State Department of Industrialization, through you, beloved PS, and also to the University of Nairobi staff that have put this event together. Your efforts were not in vain. We look forward to establishing different partnerships and collaborations on initiatives such as the One Village, One Product project that seeks to enrich the lives of the youth and those of our communities. In the words of Robert Kennedy, this world demands the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a temper of the will, a quality of imagination, a predominance of courage over timidity, of the appetite for adventure over the love of the easy. The secret message communicated to young people today by our society is that you are not needed. Yet, the fact is that the society is not running itself well because we have ignored the energy, the amazing brains, the imagination, and the talent that the young people can bring to solve our societal problems. And so it's my submission that the youth are not just the future of our country, but the present. And so thank you very much for gracing this occasion, and may God bless you. May God bless the University of Nairobi, and may God bless our country, Kenya. Thank you for your attention. Allow me then with your permission, to invite our keynote speaker, our Principal Secretary, State Department of Industrialization, Ambassador Kirimi Kaberia. And sometimes we are very quiet, so allow you to welcome our key speaker as he comes to speak to us, to give us our coordinates. Okay? Karibu, yes. Allow me to invite the Principal Secretary, State Department of Youth Affairs, Mr. Charles Sunkuli, and then who will invite his counterpart, who is our guest of honor today. Thank you. I think I had already prepared this. Sunkuli, karibu.
Thank you very much. chief guest, who is the Principal Secretary, State Department for Industrialization, Ambassador Kaberia, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Professor Jesang. There's to also recognize senior officials who are here. You can see our friend is at the former PS Bitang and Demo. You can see you in the audience and among the audience. I want to recognize Kenyans in the diaspora who are the annual conference in Seattle, and also recognize the professors who are joining us online in good numbers, and appreciate also the high number of people who are attending again online. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, this function today is being held shortly after the International Youth Day, where we join the global community in celebrating what the youth can do across the world. This conference is part of that celebration to look at ways of harnessing the power of SMEs and cottage industries inspiring regional development in Kenya. Again, I want to say my name is Charles Sunkuli, the Principal Secretary, State Department for Youth Affairs, and I'm delighted to be here to speak in this function. It is exciting to speak in this function because being the PS, the Youth Affairs, this is an area that we are deeply interested in making sure that the youth have a role to play in inspiring industrial growth across the country to develop our regions. And the youth constitute a very high percentage of the population of Kenya, and therefore bringing them on board means bringing on board a very huge segment of the Kenyan population. The youth in Kenya are innovative and vibrant, and they are spread all over the country, doing many things, particularly in cottage industries. A number of them manufacture soaps, a number of them manufacture paper bags using natural resources or natural materials. A number of them do shoe cobbling. A number of them recycle waste to make a number of products. The State Department for Youth Affairs encourages all this. And therefore, we want to say that probably the theme today is very, very relevant to our endeavor to develop the youth of Kenya. We recently had the competition, innovation competition, under the Mbele and Abyss program, which is funded by the World Bank, where we supported 750 winners who came up with innovative business ventures, some of them in the manufacturing sector, and we gave them up to about 3.6 million each to develop their businesses. And therefore, this subject is of critical importance to our function as the State Department for Youth Affairs. And we're looking forward that these linkages that we are building together with the universities, particularly the University of Nairobi Department of Research, we are looking forward to a time when we can build very strong collaborative initiatives to make sure that the youth enterprises can benefit from the research that has been developed over the years. And therefore, for the youth to play a key role in this, a number of issues need to be addressed. One is skill development. We need to ensure that our youth have the right skill for industry. We need to make sure that our youth have the right attitude to entrepreneurship and industrial development. This therefore brings into focus the role of training institutions such as this one and TVETs to give the youth the necessary skills that they need for industrial growth in the rural areas. And one of the things that we may have to give focus to now and in the future is that given the fact that government has put a lot of effort in giving incentives to the youth, particularly tax incentives, and also giving them allocation, a quota in terms of supplies to government, to government department or government projects. Therefore, the youth will have to take advantage of this opportunity. And we may have to really focus on strengthening the market for the youth on for products that come from the youth-owned enterprises. Therefore, as government, given the incentives and the right business climate that has been created by government, the youth are going to play a key role in making sure that they play a big role in industrial growth. You know, we also have the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, where we fund the youth to develop their businesses. The portfolio may have to increase over the next few years so that more and more youth can benefit from financing of their businesses. And therefore, there is a correlation between, you know, skills development for the youth and industrial growth. And those are some of the things that we must address in such a forum. And then we want to encourage the youth to take advantage of the opportunities that have been created by friendly policy initiatives by government that can enable them to have an ease of doing business. And with the right skills and with the right attitude and available financing, the youth are going to play a big role in developing SMEs and developing the cottage industries in rural areas. And therefore, we want to move out of the normal industrial areas of Nairobi, go to rural areas. I know, for example, that we now have one of the biggest leather factories in Narok, and the youth are already involved in cobbling shoes for schools. We have enterprises in Makueni. We have the camel meat processing facility in Wajir. We have a number of other factories, small factories that have been developed through the devolution process, where I served as a PS. And the youth are the ones who are driving these projects. And therefore, one of the things that I would always want to tell people is that anytime you want to choose programs to finance or to prioritize, there's always a temptation to omit the youth initiatives. There's also a temptation to say that if you want to cut down the budget or to scale down the budget, the easiest thing to remove are youth-based initiatives. But let me tell you that as government, we want, and we have, over the last few years, prioritized the youth intervention through the Youth Enterprise Fund and through the TVET to give them the right skills, and therefore encouraging their businesses. We now have an allocation, a quota under the ACPO, Access to Government Procurement Opportunities initiative, which is something that the government has insisted and consistently ensured that is adhered to make sure that the youth have an opportunity to participate in marketing or supplying their products to government agencies. So I wouldn't want to say much for today, but I want to just thank the Ministry of Industrialization for coming up with this, this initiative where we can all dialogue to find a way forward in terms of ensuring that different stakeholders, and particularly the youth, their potential is harnessed to play a big role in small and medium enterprises development and establishment of cottage industries to spur regional growth within the country. And therefore also looking at the impact of COVID, we look forward to, again, harnessing the power of the youth to play a role in the recovery of the economy through investment in such industries and SMEs. With those few remarks, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite the chief guest, PS Ambassador Kaberia. Karibu PS, a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much, my brother and friend and colleague, P.S. Sumkuli. Can we give him a round of applause, please? Yes. P.S. Sumkuli, P.S. State Department of the Youth. Professor Jesang Hutchinson, Deputy Vice Chancellor. The Equity group that is online, we understand that you are not able to make it here based on what you are doing just before now. We do understand. Other friends, we have a group that is in Seattle, Washington. Good morning. We have a group that is in London. Good morning. We have a group that is in Asia. Is it good night? And we have a group that is in Nairobi. Good evening. Then the members of University of Nairobi Management, the distinguished panelists, faculty, CEOs of the various sagas and representatives of government that are here, my friends, good evening. I'm excited, I'm happy, and I look forward to carrying many, many more of these events. But as you all know, COVID has changed the way we meet. We meet a few physically and the rest of us virtually. So you will allow me, as I'm a Foreign Service officer, and in Foreign Service, they teach us, read what you say, unless you're not. Let me not finish the statement. But I am delighted to join you today as we declare the International Youth Day. Let's celebrate it together. Let us enjoy it. This is a post-event. Before I proceed, I wish to thank the University of Nairobi for partnering with the State Department of Industrialization in actualizing this event. I also thank the Equity Group for coming to share with us industry insights on how we can improve SMEs and cottage industries. We look forward to deepening our continued engagement for the good of our country, even as we deal with COVID-19 mitigation measures. The theme of today's celebration, harnessing the power of SMEs and cottage industry, inspiring regional development, is commendable. SMEs are the drivers of our economy and constitute over 90% of all enterprise. This is because SMEs and cottage industries constitute the leading form of economic engagement of Kenya's youth population and presents the greatest promise of turning around our economy to provide more gainful employment for the skilled and talented youth, among others. Today's meeting accords opportunity for academia, government, industry, and society to ideate on how they can synergize our working together for enhanced socio-economic development of the country and our mutual benefit. Today's celebration, which is a joint effort between the State Department of Industrialization and the University of Nairobi, is part of academia, industry, and government collaboration, which the State Department is keen to forge and strengthen. As you may be aware, this triple helix of university, industry, and government relationship is increasingly gaining prominence the world over as the most effective, efficient, and preferred development model. Without academia, industry, and government working together, nothing will do, and with it, everything. Such collaboration creates a symbiotic engagement which, one, industrial needs are identified and industrial strategy defined, culminating in spin-off and startup enterprises. Collaboration with industry, real-life projects, and lifelong learning results in transfer of latest scientific research to industry. And three, the balance between engineering science and engineering practice inform new curricula and study programs. This collaboration must derive benefit to society by addressing their concerns, needs, aspirations, and even whims. The three partners must proactively interact with the real world and keep their focus on the unfolding trends in order to provide leadership that is relevant to the respective fields. Academia must lead the way in seeking to address the skills needs for industry and provide solutions to the challenges confronting the society. Further, academia should reach out to policymakers and provide fact-based policy briefs, which would in turn inform effective policy formulations. You must provide the glue that enables the partners in the triple helix to keep together for enhanced economic development of our country. On the other hand, through such engagements, industry and government should step in these hollowed halls of academia to better test policies and innovations for the common good, while sharing suggestions on how academia can improve course content and quality in response to challenging times. Together, we can turn the tables and convert the university from a source of job seekers into a factory of true and real entrepreneurs. We must create the right environment for the university to be truly an oasis of ideas and opportunities that create products, jobs, and solutions to the challenges that confront society. I challenge academia to join us in initiating an entrepreneurship monitor for Kenya. And why not? We can even go to county entrepreneurship monitor, which would compare entrepreneurial activities among counties in Kenya. In this case, we will try and define entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial activity as enterprising human action in pursuit of the generation of value through the creation or expansion of economic activity by identifying and exploiting new products, processes, and markets. Research has shown that just like in the marathon race, that the more people enter the race, the more people are likely to finish. Similarly, there is need to encourage the drive to venture into business as a strategy of increasing the number of businesses that are conceived, started, grown, and expanded. This is the very reason we are engaging in the dialogue for us to candidly discuss and improve our working with each other for enhanced socioeconomic development, for job creation, and for eradication of poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a real world which demands practical solutions to challenges which confront society. Ideally, academia, with its wherewithal of knowledge and experience in a spectrum of fields, observes what is happening in the world and domestic scene and approaches industry and government with proposals on how best to engage in order to address the challenges that be for the betterment of society. On the other hand, through such engagement, industry and government step into the hollow halls of academia to test the policies, innovations for common good, while sharing suggestions and supporting academia to improve course content and its quality. This is the very reason we are having this conversation. This conversation must continue. COVID-19 pandemic has indeed dealt global economy a devastating blow, resulting in scaling down and even winding up altogether of many enterprises, with attendant loss of jobs and incomes to many, and loss of revenue, which would have accrued as taxes for the government. Nonetheless, despite this being a global occurrence, it is not time to slumber and moan. Instead, we need to project our best thoughts forward and strategize to rekindle and strengthen our strategic industries for self-sufficiency and even for exports. You must be at the center stage of this thought process and actualize this vision, because you are universities, you are academia, you are the mother and the father of all positive thought. In 2017, ladies and gentlemen, the manufacturing sector was identified as the key driver for economic growth and development under the Big Four agenda. The sector plays a critical role in contributing to economic growth and generating employment as the country moves towards realizing the aspirations of Vision 2030. Its overall goal is to increase its contribution to the gross domestic product by at least 15% by 2022 from the current 9.2 attained in 2016. It is against this background that the State Department of Industrialization is rolling out the One Village, One Product initiative, a development model that has been used in Japan since 1979. The model has since been replicated in several other countries in the world with commendable results. Kenya adopted this model in the past, but due to lack of requisite resources, the program slowed down. Through the model, each village identifies a valuable local resource, then adds value to it through either processing, selling it, or even marketing. The concept targets to utilize the locally available resources to create jobs and wealth for the local communities across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may be aware, cottage industries are increasingly becoming key in lifting many developing economies to their next level of industrialization, as experienced in countries like Japan, India, Colombia, Brazil, Taiwan, Thailand, among other countries. Kenya has the opportunity to do the same through this initiative, in which each village identifies a valuable local resource for either manufacturing, value adding through processing, sales, or marketing. The model aims at achieving regional socio-economic development based on adding value to locally available resources in the country through resource identification, processing, quality control, and marketing of resulting products. And in this, we are coming up with a mantra, utu. Utu in this case is unda unachotumia na tumia unachounda. Remember, I'm also from this side, so N comes into almost everything. Unda. This initiative of identification and development of resources at the local level, self-reliance, and human capital development is what we intend to achieve. Through this initiative, the government will demystify industrialization by acting as a catalyst for community mobilization in the undertaking of value addition at the local level, aggregating at the regional level in readiness to maximize on the country's manufacturing and exporting potential, thus securing greater regional market dominance. Once the intermediaries have developed the startups, I jumped up a section. The State Department for Industrialization is also working with the youth more closely through the Kenya Industry and Entrepreneurship Project. The leader of that program is Mr. Odua, is with us. Yes, Mr. Odua is here with us. And through this program, the aim is to increase innovations, productivity, and competitiveness for select private sector. The project is working with the youth by strengthening the innovative ecosystem in various ways. The ministry is working with innovation intermediaries and that include incubators, accelerators, innovation hubs, and bootcamp providers. Through enhancing these institutions and developing sustainable frameworks, more youths will be able to be supported to develop startups and enhance their entrepreneurial capabilities. I hope the youth who are here with us and those who are with us online are taking note of this, because these are some of the opportunities that are coming up that must and should be taken up by our youth. Once the intermediaries have developed the startups, the project has an industry startup linkage program to provide the youth with innovative startups and opportunity to grow their innovations with other industry players. This subcomponent will further build the soft skills for the startups and enhance their confidence to both discuss and negotiate, and also enter into business engagements. In addition, the project has an industry academia platform where students will be able to develop solutions for corporate challenges that will be done through the project arrangements. Lastly, the international acceleration process provides an opportunity for the local ecosystem to access international resources that include markets, mentoring, venture capitalists, and international challenge funds. We will ensure that even through such projects, we also empower the peri-urban and rural youth to take part in Kenya's economic transformation. I wish to conclude my remarks, ladies and gentlemen, by welcoming Kenya's academia to be more proactive in reaching out to the government and industry to proffer ideas and solutions, even when we are slow to do the same. That is the idea behind the creation of a university as a center of learning, research, and outreach. It is our collective task to work towards realizing the words of our founding father, the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, that we are seeking to become architects of our future. One aspect of the rollout of this One Village, One Product Phase 3 initiative will entail resource mapping and profiling opportunities for investment of purpose. What resources are we likely to find at the universities? How about the intellectual property? And Kenya's Constitution 2010 provides for recognition of intellectual property and obligates that the government must promote, support, protect, and enhance the intellectual rights of the people of Kenya. As brain workers, we anticipate to harness your intellectual endowment to build a better, greater Kenya. I look forward to our interaction today and a deeper partnership going forward. Before I finish, allow me to go off key just a little bit to say that today we are here trying to tell a lot of technical jargon, but in light terms, in straight talk, young people, this is the opportunity. The opportunity is in the challenge. COVID came here, we couldn't even get some of the basic things we use. That taught us that we must start producing what it is that we use. Also, we know that the majority of our population does not live in the cities. So we must endeavor to do what we are proposing here, to devolve industry, to take industry where raw materials are found. And that way, we will have a better environment to create a vibrant industrial base that actually produces not only for export, but rather for us here, what we need, what we use each and every day. And in the same token, we'll create employment for all these young people. And from that group, we will give birth to our next James Mwangis and even stronger Kirubi and other industrialists that we have born in this country and in other parts of the world. Thank you very much.
A better hand for our peers. I've been reminded by Ms. Rebecca Orare. Where are you? Yes, she'll be handling our panel in a few minutes, but she has reminded me that the Twitterers, you can tweet on hashtag One Village #1, One Village, One Product #1, or hashtag Industry INDU #4 Youth. You can tweet on hashtag One Village, One Product, or hashtag Industry 4 INDU 4 #4 Youth. I know you are digital savvy. Thank you very much, distinguished guests. Professor Hashington, PS Ambassador Kremi P. Kaberia, and Principal Secretary Charles Sunkuri. I am begging your indulgence that in the spirit of the university being an academic institution, we can take only 2 questions for our dignitaries. Just 2 questions, if you have any. There's one there and one there. Let's start from here.
Okay, all protocols observed. My name is Arzon Oching. I currently serve as the Secretary General to the University of Nairobi Student Association for the College of Health Sciences. And in the same spirit, I also serve in the Kenya University Student Organization, that's KUSO, where I serve as the Director for Research and Extension. A while ago in June 2020, I'll say an initiative under the Office of the Director, Research and Extension in KUSO, an idea was born. And the idea was to establish something that was to be called the Kenya Student Research Council, typically shortly referred to as KSRC. We have been 1 year, I'll say 1 year and 3 months in operation. We have faced challenges, probably and there. The biggest challenge has been because much of research is expected to be done by postgraduate students, while we leave out a very, very key element in undergraduate students. So that's something I think we'll discuss with the Dongo, and also His Excellency Ambassador and PS. My question is on this. During our initiatives, also with the KUSO Director for Commerce, something we noted was a big challenge in terms of youth and their projects. It's something called the patency and intellectual property rights. I do appreciate that in the year 2001, we had the Kenya Industrial Property Institute that was formed as an act. And the main role was to ensure that intellectual property rights, IP rights, and patency rights were streamlined so that to ensure innovators in the country are protected from copycats and faking. But I'm not exactly aware how this I'll say KIPI has reached to the grassroots levels. It's not 1 day, it's not 2 days. Each and every month you'll see someone, some person in Nakuru who has invented a helicopter using Mabati. You see someone all the way to Eldoret who has a radio station, only using locally made materials. But the challenge has been this, is keep able to reach out to these people. Because realize these are better inventions. Let's say K24 features me. Let's say I sit down and they say, I think I can create a mobile phone that is way, way more slimmer.
Sorry.
I'll just go to it because I think this is really important. So I'll beg them to take more time. Usually this is something that's going to be taken to YouTube by K24, to be taken to YouTube by KBC. What is protecting this local innovator from other people who will be watching on YouTube? YouTube is global. I feel like KIPI has a lot to do in terms of reaching to the grassroots levels and ensuring that the grassroots innovators, who are mostly youths, they have access to they know these intellectual property rights and also patency rights. Because these are really important things, because if you can't patent my innovation, the next time someone comes with innovation, we all know the story how Kiondo went. Everyone knows about the story about Kiondo. We don't want that to happen to our youth. So I think that's KIPI should move into that. My second question goes to the State Department for Youth Affairs, and this I say as a Secretary General for College of Health Sciences. We cannot be talking about youth while the youth themselves are not as fully functional. We have the issue of mental health. I believe we should move from the old story of having webinars and corporate sessions where we'll talk about mental health, and we should actually move into action and practicality, into adapting the reports of the Youth Mental Health report that was published in 2019. So that's a challenge from your side. Let us go to practical solutions, because if you're going to have meetings and corporates and webinars, at the end of the day, we're going to have youth who are still languishing in mental health. And we can't move to industrialization if our own youth are still languishing in mental depression and mental health. Thank you.
I have a last question from that Ed. Somebody at least tap his hand on that Ed.
Good evening. Thank you, all our guests today. So my question is going to Honorable P.S. Sonkuli. My name is Tony, and I'm a final year student here. I did my dissertation on the role of youth in governance. So one question I have for you is, I'm also a business owner, and one red tape that we've met when try to access youth fund is that we are required to provide collateral for the startup loan. So we feel it is not an institutional enabler for us to access that loan. So it is an appeal that if we can have a review of that requirement, so that we can have a wide beneficiaries for this product, because I know of colleagues here in campus who engage in e-commerce. We want to move our businesses beyond campus, and we want to access these funds, but we are required to have collateral, and we also required to have 6 months bank statements. We don't transact our businesses through banks for now. Most of our clients pay us through M-Pesa and till numbers. So how can this be a requirement for us to access this loan? Thank you.
Thank you very much for those 2 questions. I request our guests, in your own order, please make a few comments about that.
Thank you very much for the questions. On the issue of Kipi, in fact, I think you're sitting not very far from Mr. Kirema. Where is he? Mr. Kirema, I think you must make sure you speak to him before you leave. If anyone knows anything about intellectual property, that gentleman is the custodian of intellectual property knowledge in this country, having headed that institution and having been the one that developed the majority of the policy that guides intellectual property today. That said, I will say that it is important that innovation and intellectual property is protected so that we don't keep losing it. I appreciate your contribution and your suggestions, but I also propose that you talk to him so that at least he's able to give you some of the pointers as to how to improve the information and how to even share information with other youth. But I would say in the rural areas also we have the county industry development officers who are available at any time to try and help that. I would request that at some point we give the microphone to Mr. Kirema to just explain something on how intellectual property works. On the other issue of credit access and guarantees, we have a credit guarantee scheme that is designed to help the young people so that you're able to at least access credit where you couldn't before, because a lot of organizations were afraid to lend to young people. In fact, it's unfortunate we are not able to get the Equity Bank people here. Yesterday at Kenyatta University, we had Family Bank. Today at Nairobi, we were supposed to have Equity Bank, and all of them were going to talk to us about the issues of credit guarantee scheme and how we have managed to find money through either World Bank or European Union support, and also the government of Kenya support, all these funds coming together to support SMEs and mostly the youth to ensure that you're able to access financing affordably, reliably, and without prejudice. Thank you. I think the rest I will pass to my friend and colleague to answer.
Let me just reply to your question. What was the name again? Huh? Ronnie. Okay. You had I want to combine your question and his, particularly on the requirement for the collateral and also bank statements for the youth when applying for the funds from the Youth Enterprise and Development Fund. Is that the case? One thing, let me just say that I know every time we ask the youth to apply for these funds, the biggest challenge has always been we don't have a title deed, we don't have a logbook, we don't have bank deposit to demonstrate that we are a viable business entity. Whereas we may not entirely waive this requirement, but over the last few months, we have managed to look at this thing and assist youth applicants on a case-by-case basis. And given the nature of the business and other related requirements, which can actually be a little easier for the young people. So I would just encourage you, if you're a business owner and you want to get financing, to visit the fund, and your application will be looked at on a case-by-case basis, depending on the uniqueness of your case. On the other hand, one of the things that the youth are also required to do is to have to show the physical address, to indicate the physical address. Some of them don't have offices. And one of the things that we are doing now as a State Department, we are operationalizing all the empowerment centers, youth empowerment centers in the country, so that should you be required to indicate where your business, where your point of reference, the youth empowerment center will be your point of reference, and we're going to put in the necessary data and personnel to serve you, like that is your secretary, that is your office, and we'll have a list of youth businesses within the center, and anytime someone calls to require maybe a plumber or a mechanic, that list will be at the Youth Empowerment Center, and anybody who requires that will be given your contact, so that becomes your office. Those are some of the reforms that we're trying to do to make sure that youth participate in SME growth and also industrialization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It appears that I opened a Pandora's box. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to squeeze some three gentlemen very briefly. Mr. Keremi, where are you? Please spend 1 minute and tell us something about KIPI, and tell this youth how you can get a patent. Then I'll call Dr. Oren Naireke. You are there? I'll also give you 2 minutes to tell us how you support industrialization. And Mr. Odua, you are there? I'll also give you 1 minute to tell us what you do. Please be very brief. Then we go to the panel, where I'm sure there will be a lot of entertainment. Rebecca, you are ready? Yes, just chill.
Thank you. The gentleman there asked, is KIPI able to reach out to those out there who may have intellectual property? They may not, as of now, be able to cover the whole country, but what we have put in place is a mechanism of consolidating intellectual property rights, protection, support, and up to enhancing. The presidential report on parastatal reform recommended that we combine our 3 intellectual property institutions, which are currently the Kenya Industrial Property Institute, the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, and the Kenya Copyright Board, into one government-owned entity. And towards that end, we have already come up with a bill to establish Kenya Intellectual Property Authority. The bill has been okayed, it has been progressed, and we anticipate that soon it will be heading to Parliament for debate and enactment, where then we'll have one entity the Kenya Intellectual Property Authority. At the moment, the intellectual property institutions are rolling out service provision to centers where we expect intellectual property is likely to be generated, like universities. We are extending the services to have an IP desk at the university. We are also extending the services through our county industrial development offices, like the PS has mentioned. And collectively with our other partners, we are also opening biashara centers, where again, these services are being brought closer. So that challenge is being addressed. Our constitution recognizes intellectual property as a property and obligates the government to protect, support, promote, and enhance. If you look at the articles number 11, 40, 60, and 260, together with the 69, you get all that. And we are doing this to make sure that Kenyans don't lose out on their intellectual property. I submit.
Thank you very much. You can see the good news, the good news that is being shared with the youth of this country. So that concern has been addressed. Daktari, tuongeleshe kidogo.
Thank you very much, and PS and protocol observed. My name is Dr. Leonard Kai, Managing Director, Kenya Industrial Estates. Because of time, let me just summarize. Thank you. Kenya Industrial Estates is a state corporation under the State Department for Industrialization. We're under the PS. We have 3 mandates. 1, to provide incubation services for value addition. We give space to people who want to add value to their ideas or to their products. We are in 37 counties, and in 35 of those we have incubators where you can approach us to get space. Number 2, we finance micro, small, and medium enterprises, including women groups and youth groups in value addition. And we lend for working capital from 1 year and long-term for equipment and machinery up to 8 years on a 10% reducing balance. Yes, we do insist on collateral, but like the PS mentioned, we work on a case-by-case basis. We are also innovating to say, if a youth, for instance, has gotten a tender, can we use that LPO to finance it? So there are such solutions available. Number 3 is capacity building and entrepreneurial training, because it's much more critical that you develop that capacity. We also offer linkages. We link our clients, micro, small, and medium enterprises, to other SMEs, to uptake of technology, to markets, and to corporates. And I just want to, I'm really very encouraged that I don't know, he might not be here today. One of your professors, Professor Ndemo, has been reaching out on how he can link the youth to incubators. And I really laud him for such effort, and I'm sure we are going to exploit. Thank you.
That's a very good summary. Next guest, very brief. And then panelists, you should actually be walking. You should be walking around. I'll call you in a few minutes.
Good morning, good afternoon, all protocols observed. My name is Stephen Odua. In the ministry, I'm the director in charge of, Director of Industries in charge of private sector development, but specifically to the interest of our discussion today, I'm also the project coordinator of the Kenya Industry and Entrepreneurship Project, in short called KIEP. So what KIEP is doing, it's actually a World Bank's supported project. We are trying to see how we can support the youth yourselves through what we are calling various aspects of innovation, competitiveness, and also supporting yourselves to start industries, as it were. So the project's main objective is to support innovation and competitiveness in select private sector enterprises, which will be amongst the youth and the like. The approach the project is using is that, one, we know that we have a lot of innovative youths or innovative enterprises or startups, like the example given by Ochieng here of the youth who invented the plane. Now, once you have that invention, perhaps the challenge that innovator has is how does he approach a financer? How does he further that particular innovation for it to be acceptable or usable for the market? So what our project is doing is being able to help such innovators, one, by supporting their intermediaries. That could be the incubators, that could be the accelerators, who actually would help further support those innovations. Number two, once those innovations have actually been developed, we have an industry startup linkage program where you now will be linked as a startup with the industry. The advantage of that is that the industry will then be able to faster commercialize that particular innovation. Again, we are saying that we have a lot of innovations in the universities, like we have just observed you have just discussed today. Now, those innovations, like has been mentioned, we want to see them being commercialized. So an industry academia platform is there within the project framework to see how we can support those innovations commercialize faster. So that is the other thing we are doing. And then we are also looking at the international acceleration process. Like I'm sure most of you are aware that Kenya is actually being known, is known now for being an innovative and entrepreneurship destination. A lot of venture capitalists want to come here so that they could use partner with us, have our skills to be able then to grow various products and enterprises. So the international acceleration process is to help us now link up first to the outside markets, two, to be able also to meet the venture capitalists, link you to various investors, and one of already, as we are talking now, we are partnering with the private sector to implement this program. We have Growth Africa under Startup Savannah. So if you go to startupsavannah.go.ke, you'll be able to register with them. The registration is free as a youth, as an enterprise. They'll be able then to look at what your needs are, link you up with the potential investors. Already we have a training that is going on with an Indian enterprise, Wadhani Foundation, where they are actually training youths. Already 66 are being trained through a 9-week virtual program on entrepreneurship. The cohort 2 is already ready. They're going to the next 56 lot is being done. Already Startup Savannah has partnered with Oracle. Oracle will be able to train, and also they've also partnered with another venture capitalist who would want to help in is going to give a 3-month blockchain training. So go to Startup Savannah, you'll be able to see what is happening there, or you just come to the kiep.go.ke, which is the website for the ministry. You'll be able then to see what the program does. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. From what is going here, I wish I was a youth, because there are so many opportunities that are open to you if you pursue them, if you seek them. I want all the panelists to walk through on my right. Somebody is going to mic you, and then you come and take a seat here. Our guests have graciously accepted to be part of the panel, which I think is very nice. So panelists, please get a mic. You'll be mic'd down there, then you come and have a seat up here. As they come, I was very impressed by, yes, please.
Just to give a little bit of clarity, at the University of Nairobi, under the new structure, we have the associate deans who are now coordinating the research and innovation function at the faculties. But under my office, we have the director for intellectual property management office that will link you to all this. So even as you get the details, there is already a place where you can call home to ask all the questions that you want answered, including the faculty, who are very, very useful. So link up with your staff members, and then also link up with the office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, RIE, with the Intellectual Property Management Office, currently being held by Dr. Mary Keynote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. As the rest of the panelists sit, they'll be taking their seats. I was very impressed by what one of the peers said. We want a factory of entrepreneurs, not job seekers. And he said, we want one village, one product model, which has already been tested elsewhere. My friend Chen, just add. My friend from, yes, Chen, just add. I'm sure you're from China, and I'm sure you have used that model successfully. So the model of one product, one village, one product has been tested, and I'm sure it can also work here. The youth. I hope you're aware that Bill Gates, the famous entrepreneur, was only 19 years when he started Microsoft. So if you have not started a company, you are already late. You better start. Peers, Ambassador told us, or challenged the academia. I think on behalf of the university, the academia, we are going to take that challenge. That challenge he gave us, we are going to take it up. So the next session is to have a panel discussion. It is going to be moderated by Miss Rebecca Orare. And believe it or not, she used to be one of our student leaders, and she is still giving us her services. So please relax, sit, relax, and enjoy the panel discussion. As they come, I recognize Professor Jackson Maru. That is the dean, the acting executive dean of my school, School of Business, Management, and Management Sciences. School of Business, or Faculty of Business and Management Sciences. Any other dean here? He is representing all of them. Thank you.
We'll just give it to him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ms. Orare, and I'm going to be the moderator for this session. I am a student of law. I did my undergraduate at the University of Nairobi. I was also graced to be a student leader here. And having participated in this space, I have learned a thing or two that has helped me shape my opinion about young people and how we can take on the future. It's both an honor and a privilege to get to be here to talk about how we can harness SMEs, cottage industries, so that we can take the rightful position that we need to in East Africa and Africa at large. Without further ado, I will pose my first question to Ms. Muya and ask this. Can you give us a rough picture of the state of SMEs and cottage industries as we speak to date? And as you answer that, please tell us the brief history of where we have come from and probably the milestones that we have made. Okay, thank you. Are you mic'd?
Thank you, and good afternoon once again. Like I've been told, I'm the director in charge of enterprise development, and in that case, we have the SMEs, the small and micro enterprises are part of the enterprise development, and one of the functions that the directorate undertake in the State Department for Industrialization is promotion of these enterprises. You realize that the SMEs, because at different forums, different terminologies, we talk of SMEs as small and medium, and then we also talk of micro and small enterprises. But you realize, even from the statistics, the GDP contribution by the MSCs, the highest part comes from the micro and small enterprises, and these are also is the segment of the sector that we would want to graduate to go to the medium enterprises. And therefore, there is a lot of effort that has been put towards development of micro and small enterprises. You also realize that the enterprises, they cut across several sectors of the economy. There are enterprises which are manufacturing based, where we are talking about the cottage industries. There are the enterprises which are service sector. They are in the service sector. There is also the trade sector and other sectors. We talk of it, may it be ICT, may it be all the hospitality. All these are enterprises, and at the end of the day, we have the micro, small, and also medium enterprises. You also realize, like what I've been asked to say, there has been policies, because from the government side, it's about the policy formulation and also implementation of the same. There is a history of the policy interventions towards the development of the sector. All the way from the 1960s, we have various policies that have talked about the enterprises or the entrepreneurial development. Come to the 1980s, the renewed economic growth talks about the rural development. You come to the 90s, there is a sessional paper that talks about the Juakali for the 1992. You come to 2005, there is that policy that talks about the micro and small enterprises. And lately, because you realize from 2005 and now, it's about over 15 years ago, there was need to look at that policy again, to look at what has evolved over time, and review it. And it is only last month, because the ministry, as I have said, is charged with that responsibility. We reviewed the policy together with all the stakeholders, whether it is private, the public institutions, including the academia, participated in that policy. And as we talk now, we have the latest policy, that is Sessional Paper number 5 of 2020. As we talk now, the department is also preparing to engage the same stakeholders in implementation of the same, because you realize that the key actors are both the private, non-state and the state actors, that is the academia included, the private sector, and also the government institutions. And once, what we have seen is has been a lot of concerted effort, even by government, with the involvement of the private sector in regard to the sector, because we realize this is a key sector of the economy and we need to drive the agenda. And there are also public institutions which support the SMEs. One of them is what Mr. Narikai has just talked about, Kenya Industrial Estate. There are very many. Some are also presented in this room. These are institutions which may not have been there that time, but because of the need for development of the MSMEs, they have been playing a key role. One of them is the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, which is also represented here. We have what we have mentioned, the KIPI, or the Intellectual Property Office, which is also key towards the patenting of the products and services by the MSMEs. We also have the financial institutions. And lately, within that sessional paper for 205, it established a focal point for the MSEs, that is the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority. Currently, it is under the State Department for Trade, but it is still within the ministry, so we work hand in hand with the institution. It is looking at how it can also bring together all these enterprises which are association-based, which are individual-based. And currently, there is that effort of reviewing the Act so that it can reach out to those that were not covered by the Act 2012. So in terms of the milestone, we can say that the sector has also grown. Yeah. One thing I say is that there are SMEs that emerge every day.
Yeah, sure.
Because people are churned out there, and they go and they start the enterprises. One, some of these challenges that some of these enterprises incur is including the entrepreneurial culture. And I'm sure this comes even in the School of Business, that sometimes people start businesses because they want to put food on the table, they want to engage themselves, but what we are saying, and even what the policy is proposing, is to have that entrepreneurial culture even in our high schools. I know entrepreneurship course has just been done at the university level, but it is something that it should start even at the lower level of education, so that we can grow knowing what is entrepreneurship, how can I do it. In terms of the cottage industries, I think for some time now, not when we used to see the multinationals, but we realize that when we go out there in the counties, there are these industries that have come up. You realize that a cottage industry or a manufacturing enterprise can employ a number of people across the value chain, right from the production. You also realize that us who are in the manufacturing sector, we come at the tail end because we are consumers of what is produced. Yeah. And so there are very many factors along the value chain, right from the raw material, the production, the marketing, post-harvesting, and even handling of that product or produce before it gets to value added. So as an institution or as the Ministry of Industrialization, we collaborate with all these institutions so that we can look at all these factors that affect that. The areas of financing for these enterprises, I think as we can agree as a country, there are a lot of finances all allowed. Yeah. The issue is it affordable? Is it accessible? I have heard one of the students ask about the youth fund.
There's also
but I
bureaucracy.
think it is a question of looking at it and also looking at what is it that we want.
Yeah.
Our peers talked about the credit guarantee scheme. It is a scheme which is being administered by the National Treasury. We are represented as a team. And were it not for the effects of the COVID-19, it has been rolled out, and they are reaching out to all categories of enterprises in the country. There are quite a number of them within the counties, but because of the COVID issue, they are now trying to reach out even to the institutions. And I think sometimes in March, they had also an engagement of a group of the people from this institution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That was quite informative. The next question I would ask is to Dr. Engineer Sifilia Wanjiku, who's a senior lecturer, the Faculty of Engineering. The government, through the Ministry of Education, has been very particular when it comes to STEM courses, because we believe that the STEM courses are the courses that will help us even achieve the Big Four agenda. My question is this: as the Faculty of Engineering, how are you packaging yourself to be able to produce graduates who will actually be competent enough to drive this agenda forward?
Thank you very much. You can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good afternoon, everybody. Protocols observed. Thank you very much for that question.
Yeah.
It's a very relevant question. And just as you have introduced me, I am a lecturer I'm a civil engineer by training, and I lecture and I practice whatever I got when I was conferred the degree to do and to read all that pertains to that degree. So I do what, again, the university mandates us as lecturers. We have a threefold mandate. We have to teach, do consultancy, and do research. So I do the three. In this particular forum, I would like to talk about my experience in the research. My area of interest is in innovative materials, in particular cementitious materials. How can we replace cement and things like those? And I participate a lot. I think even professor here knows from research, I'm always writing, proposals for funding to attract funding. And once we get the research, you don't do it yourself, so we do it with students. Yeah. Most of our research work is heavily student-based, mostly postgraduate, at master's and PhD level. And once we we engage in the research, because that's what now links us with industry. Most of it is actually industry-based. Yeah. So you have to identify the students, even at the graduate, maybe at the 4th, 5th year, you are able to work with.
Okay.
So how do I, as a lecturer or a researcher, identify who will be able to do this? All the speakers this afternoon were emphasizing something, and I jotted it down, called attitude. Yeah. So there are three things that I would want to talk about as I answer your question. I want to talk about attitude. I want to talk about knowing the choice of the area to, even the choice of the area on to apply for funding. Also, knowing about what is required in terms of compliance. Those three things, and they are very relevant to our youth. So when we are interacting with our students, we are able to tell. And from my experience of working a lot with the youth as a lecturer and also as a supervisor, I have come to make a very serious discovery, which maybe I'm yet to patent it, but I have discovered that all of us seated here, all of us were born artists.
Sure.
First and foremost, we were born artists. What do I mean by that? What is art in the first place? I know I'm a scientist, but first and foremost, before I went into the science, I'm an artist. Art is maybe being able to stand, being able to talk, being able to put together, being able to put pieces together, being able to tear apart. Engineering is being able to tear apart the laws of nature and bringing them back together. That's an art in itself. So when we are looking at who is able to work with us in this research and then maybe train them to take it up, is the attitude. Do they have, are they coming because maybe there is some money that they'll be paid or a little stipend? Or is it because they have this artistic inclination into doing whatever it is that you're asking them to do? And then they synchronize that with what you're now teaching them how to do. Then it looks like the research was meant for them. Life becomes very easy.
So interest is important.
Very important.
Okay.
When we keep emphasizing on attitude, the first speaker here was talking about potential.
Yeah.
And something that somebody doesn't know you have. I want to tell you, it is that elevated artistic. Am I able to stand? There are many people who can't speak in front of a crowd like this, let alone a big one. That's an art. Being able to put words together, it's an art. Are you able to then use that artistic inclination to the work you do, and then you are placed in an environment where there is maybe incubation, maybe there is some finances, but first and foremost, you are aligning yourself to what you are born to do.
Okay.
So that's the first thing we want to tell our students. Don't even do something because there's money. Money is good, but if you're able to identify what artistic inclination do I have that I'm able now to innovate and put together in this job, within this environment, then the work will look like it was meant for me.
Okay.
Then
Young
I'll be
people,
able to
interest first.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll be able to really work and be able to get to very high heights. Knowing the choice again of the area to pursue. You don't just pick anything because there is money. We think about startups, for example. Again, I go back to that artistic. Like I personally have discovered, unfortunately too late, it's my artistic. I know I can break down things completely and put them back together, even in a design, even in, when you're designing a building, a structure, you put down everything, the loading, everything, the roof, you put it back together in such a way that you are manipulating the laws of nature. Okay. Then you call that design of science. So you must, if I have that art, then I will really do what I am put there to do very well. But if I'm put somewhere else, where maybe I'm asked to dance, or maybe my artistic is fashion, like you are very fashionable, you are, you are able to, you are able to leave an impression and so on. So understand that and ask yourself, is there a cottage industry or whatever SME I'm doing? Am I able to align myself, synchronize that with that art that is inborn, so that when harsh circumstances come, I'll be able to hang there.
I want to stop you there.
Yes.
And from what you have just said,
yes,
I would want to ask Professor Bitangendemo, who's the Associate Professor, School of Business, this. What is the disparity between what she's actually telling us and the actual market?
Thank you for the question. What Daktari has said is not what you have innovated. Actually, in our field, we call it passion. Passion first when you want to do something. And your question is very, very appropriate, that I hang on as much as I can, because I'm going to speak in another conference in a few minutes, but I said I would hang on. We have been talking about many things here, which you allow me to clarify a little bit. Let us not spend too much time around intellectual property. To get a clear new innovation, Dr. will tell you it will take a lot of time. So some of the things we think we have innovated are things that exist. We would rather spend more time to reverse engineer, like what you see Indians are doing, the Chinese are doing. Of course, there are several other IPs which have expired, which can be leveraged, so that we can continue to do something. We are active in the way we are doing it. But I want to give my friend, we have worked together for a very long time, PS Onkule and PS Kaberia, that I accepted to come so that I give you a challenge that we have talked, we have had policies from 1965, sessional paper number 10. We have almost every 2 years, we have a policy in SMEs. The only thing that is lacking is implementation. Some of those beautiful documents that have been written. I spend a lot of time in your Kirli with the students to look at how to come up with new items. Some have gone through there and actually paid a lot of money to the institutions. I've been following my brother here. How can we incubate? I've reached a point now that I want to challenge you. I don't want money from Sunkuli. I don't want money from you. That end of September, you come here, I come with like 3, 5, or 10 products, which are global standards. Because from our studies, what we find is that we can't buy our products because we call them poor quality. And indeed, they are poor quality, some of them. If you buy a dining table in Dagoretti, it doesn't stay for a month before it starts to dance that way. And if there are 6 chairs, 4 are moving this way. So people who end up buying there have to have a toilet paper somewhere to align the chair when the visitors have come. So we need to kill that by getting technology into local production. And because I work with several people, I called them today and said, we need to show the world that we can produce. And from there, we can now request you that either through KIE or Growth Africa, I sit in the board of Growth Africa, where a lot of young people are incubating. We begin implementation such that by December, we have another maybe 1,000 young people with global standard products. And that way, they can now compete with the imports. So we keep on talking. We have professors there, they understand. We have everybody who understands what needs to be done. Everybody thinks we would blame PS Kaberia. Let us not blame, let us begin to say, what can I do? Just like Kennedy said, ask not what the country has done for you, ask what you have done. So I've had this opportunity to talk to you and said, you take my word and say, end of September, we gather products from the university, Apakabete, where I've been going to see several products which are lying there, and attach them to these young people and create the market. Because the reason why I'm saying this is, just when COVID was starting, some women called from the market in Westlands and said they can't sell because we had been helping them. We went there and said, what is the problem? They can't sell because everybody was locked up in the house. So we knew the product was there. Now we need to look at innovation around the process. And said, you have a smartphone. 3, 5 had smartphones. Others, we found them smartphones. And said, take pictures, send them to your customers who are desperate also looking for them. They began ordering. And when they ordered, they said, so how do we take? Then get boda, show them how to use Google Maps. They started dropping. These women have moved from the market. They are operating from home because they have found a new business model to work. It was practical because there was a crisis. A problem gives us a solution. So this problem of saying that SMEs are going to do this and we are going to change the policy, policy doesn't need to be changed. I mean, there are just too many. This is what we teach, that sometimes we skip some of the policies because they are repeated, that we would add credit. Credit is changing, and I hoped we would have Mwang here, that we need now to use artificial intelligence to create credit scores on these people so that they don't begin asking PS Onkuli, how do we get loan with collateral? Nobody's going to take loans which are collateralized because the technologies are there. This is the area we need to shift. So we shift the discussion and now begin to talk about exports. We get the quality right. We develop the supply chains, link them to global value chains, and we get young people manufacturing. We improve our manufacturing, which has been declining. We would be able to bring it up. Very simple. Very simple that way. If we start from end of September, displaying globally competitive products at the universities here, we also know what we need from every department at the university, what we need from engineering, what we need from agriculture to be able to create new products. That is what we do with Professor Malu, myself, Professor Iraqi. That is what we do, but nobody listens to us. We write always, me and Iraqi, about this. Nobody reads, but today I've gotten a chance to actually say, it. Thank you,
Thank you very much,
I'm sure you would allow me if I sneak out, then I can.
You are out. Maybe as you do that, Mr. Julius Kirema, imagine I'm a young man in Shamaho or Ekarakara or in Machakos, and I have an idea that I want patented. Can you tell us in 2 minutes how you patent that product? And I want to imagine I've not been to school.
Before Professor goes, I would like to at least take up his challenge and just say, why not? Let's do it. If it is end of September, pick a place. I'll put together my resources. The place is offered. So, end of September, here. The host is here. She's already also agreed. Is there anybody else you need? I will bring my full group. You bring yours. Let's do it. I think it's done. It's done. I think this is one of the things that we really must get. And I would like, before Professor goes, to say thank you very much. Maybe most of you don't know, but we've had an experience in our past life. We all know Huduma centers, don't we? We all think Huduma centers just grew out of post office. Really, Huduma centers grew out of Professor Pitenge Demo, and he came to me. Then I was an ambassador in Brazil, and with a group we started this program, going through an experience in Brazil called Popa Tiempo, and Popa Tiempo is the same as our Huduma Center. And he was able to take that idea and contextualize here and make it what it is today. I'm very proud of you for that. And we all know that he has done many other things. And even if he says that not many people read, I would like to also say, we read what you write, Prof. Thank you very much.
I hope we are going to have more challenges later on. But Mr. Kremi addressed my question. Professor, if you run away, pass my greetings to Americans.
Can you finish your question so that...
My question was, if I am in a rural area and I want to patent a product, in 2 minutes, tell us the steps I have to follow until I get a patent.
Okay. Upon realizing that you want to patent a product or a process, you make an application to the Kenya Industrial Property Institute. And this is the institution we are seeing that now is rolling out its services so that you don't have to physically go and look for them as it is now being in Nairobi. You are able to get to them even through our county industrial development offices who are out there in the field. And they will guide that particular individual on how to make that application. And the application will be looked through in terms of the novelty that is therein. And upon qualifying, you will be granted the rights to go on and register. Depending on what the item is, you may qualify for a patent, a utility model, a trademark. So there are millions of IP that you can apply for.
How much should I pay?
Again, it depends on the category. And as you may have known, money is not the only thing that we must demand before you register. During this time of COVID, we actually rolled out those services for free by waiving the fees for innovators. Remember, we said that we have a constitutional mandate to protect, promote, support, and enhance the intellectual property rights of Kenyans. So whatever it takes, we are committed to do that. And that is why we are coming up even with a more efficient outfit, the Kenya Intellectual Property Authority, that will be now the consolidation of the existing three.
Thank you very much. I think now I can become I can own a patent. Nathan Kipragat Getich. You are the youngest in this panel, and you are a student. And I said earlier that Bill Gates was 19 years when he came up with Microsoft. How old are you?
Thank you for this opportunity.
Just tell us how old you are.
My years. So, okay.
You don't need to answer that question.
23 years.
23.
Yeah.
So tell us, if you are 23 years,
yeah,
and you did not come up with something new at 19, what happened? And answer that question on behalf of all the students in this university.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. So I'll just answer directly your question by saying that you see, as when we were growing up as kids, we were put into the pressure that you have to pass in examination. We were never given a chance to practice or harness our talents as youth. When you went out to the field and came out late to the house, you were being punished for going to the field. When your parents could find you tampering with, let's say, the sockets or trying to repair a radio, they could really beat you up. So the thing that was remaining was...
Are you telling us you have a scar?
Yeah. So the only remaining thing was to focus on science as a theory, but not practical. So that's the main problem. And you see in the university, personally, I'm a student in the engineering school, and we were having a conversation with the new executive dean for the Faculty of Engineering, Professor Ayub Gitau, and he mentioned something that he wants to come up with an incubation center and an engineering complex. And that's something good. We should not just learn in class, but be given a chance do practicals. Thank you.
I think I've been able to get a question for every panelist except 3. Professor, do you have something to add with all what the other panelists have said as our host?
I'm not wired, so
you can come here.
I think that's what I'm saying. I think what I can add is that we are talking about actually changing our curricula to reflect what is about that. We have focused so much on the white-collar jobs at the expense of actually competence-based curricula. So already the ministry has started, but also at university, we are now changing the curricula to reflect that entrepreneurial, innovation, entrepreneurial kind of skills imparted to our students from the time when they come to from the first year to the end. So we have arrived yet, the journey has started, and we have our eyes on the ball to ensure that the graduates that we get, because they want to be punished, but they want to be encouraged.
Thank you very much. Ambassador, when I look at you, you seem to be having something burning that you must share with this audience. It is your turn.
Thank you very much. Burning, because it is true. I really believe very strongly that these young people in this place must be given the chance. Thank you very much to accept that, in fact, you didn't get a chance. Going forward, we need to become practical. We need to start teaching our young people that it is possible. I'll give an example of Brazil again, and the Association of Manufacturers Equivalent, FIESP. You go to the universities, the curriculum that is taught in the university is tied to the needs of the industry. So that you go to University of Nairobi School of Engineering, and you're learning on the basis of what the various industries here are looking for, such that even the practical training or the practice of what you work into going forward is associated with a specific industry. And then the industries actually pay to maintain the institution and even to develop curricula. It is a very interesting relationship between academia, industry, and policy. And those institutions that develop industry and develop this kind of program get exemptions in either taxes or other type of incentive. If you go to creating brands and also credibility, trustworthiness by the consumer, you find a school in Brazil from 1890s until today. Whenever you sign an agreement for a commodity, you buy 5 years ahead. You sign for the crop of fall 2025. And the price is written as the price that the university XYZ says it is at that point. Because this institution, for the last 150 plus years, has been maintaining the price index every day, giving prices of commodities 3 times a day, in the morning, at noon, and in the evening, consistently without fail. So their trustworthiness, their credibility is very high. So I think we need to start building institutions and strengthening local institutions so that they are able to support even the value chains that we are trying to build. Lastly, I would like my challenge to go to the young people, that you don't have to be in the city. There are enough opportunities which are tied to the many things you call challenges. I hear our young people complaining, we are lacking this, we are lacking that, we are lacking the other. In fact, if you convert that and say, we are lacking storage in our rural area, build a store. It doesn't have to start as a very sophisticated store. However rudimentary it is, it will serve the original purpose, and with the time, it will be improved. So let's get it started, and I pick the challenge from Professor Ndemo. Let's get started. Thank you.
That's a very good challenge. P.S. Sunkuri, you also don't look satisfied. I want you to feel satisfied. Take that mic before we go to the audience.
Okay. Let me first of all say that it's been quite interesting to listen to the panelists as well as the audience on what the young people can do. You know, innovation and energy is in the youth. And therefore, what we need to do as those of us in position of responsibility is to afford them with the opportunity to demonstrate their innovation, to market their innovation, and develop it further. So I would like to say that it's quite encouraging to listen to what my colleague is saying, that the challenge given that by the end of September we'll have products that will be lined up for showcasing as very quality products. As a Ministry of Youth, we'll have to play a role in that, and we'll be excited to participate in any of those events that can help us further our vision for the youth of Kenya. Thank you very much.
I want to end this panel discussion by getting back to the youth. Nathan Kipragat-Getich, you would be the best person to summarize for this panel before you go to the audience. We give you that honor. Something you must tell the youth, and they must remember it for the next 100 years.
So what I would want to urge my fellow youth is that, first of all, let me concur with the speeches that have been made before, that we can convert this university from a source of job seekers to a source of factory entrepreneurs. And we as the youths, we have the power, we have the chance. There's a saying that as long as you are young, you have the ability to change the future of your siblings, of the current generation, and of the future generation. Our forefathers did something. Our current parents have done something, and we need to do something. In advocacy, we always have to deal with the head, the heart, and the wallet. We have the brains. We have gone to school. Now, as the doctor not wait to be employed, let us think of creating for employment and opportunities for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katich. Now let me go to the audience. If you ask the question, please specify who you want to answer your question. And I want to do it in phases. Let's start from my far left. Any question there? Far left, including up to the top, including those ladies and gentlemen in choir uniform. That seems to be a very quiet place. The middle here. Any question? Yes, there's a question in front. If you want, you can tell us who you are, then tell us who you want to ask the question.
Yeah, thank you. Our protocols observed. My name is Joseph Mbeva. I'm a director of industries from the State Department of Industrialization. Mine is some additional information. On matters of intellectual property, I would like to report that the University of Nairobi has an intellectual property policy, which is supposed to be working. From 2005, I'm part of the team which developed that. You also have an intellectual property manager who is a qualified IP expert. He's called John Minor, who is here, based at the university. And that fellow was poached from Kipi.
And
He's
he
an
was,
engineer.
and he was my classmate.
Yeah, and he was my colleague at Kipi. That is where we were working together. So I think issues like what my peers have said about royalty issues, where the university or the institutions of higher learning which can lead in terms of coming up with innovations, and then they are picked by entrepreneurs, and then you start earning the royalties. All those are addressed in that intellectual property policy. I think what we need to do is to see how can we make use of that. In terms of even where some of the students in their research, while they're being supervised by their lecturers, coming up with the innovation, all that is addressed in that particular policy. In addition, there was a question about the fees, which my colleague Kerima indicated. I don't know whether it has been proposed for change in the merger bill, but for patents, to get a patent, total fee is supposed to be 14,000. That money, as he said, is not paid at once. It's spread because there are various stages before you acquire the patent, which the application has to go through. For utility model, which is a lesser patent, is 7,000. Then we have the industrial designs, which are the aesthetic appearance is 7,000 also. We have for registration of brands, which are the trademarks, which are used for identification of products out there in the market, is of 12,000, which is renewable after 10 years, so that the government can still confirm whether you are still interested in use of the same trademark in the channels of trade. And I think the issue of reaching out to innovators, Kipi, as Kirima said, is not spread, but where there is a need, they are normally linked and they are able to go to the ground and they try to address the issue. They have been trying to create awareness, but still, the level is still low. So all is not lost. We have what it takes as a country. Is a question of how can we utilize. And where sometimes information is not clear. We have so many government agencies, so if you can ask for anything, it can always be guided where to get the information. There is another issue which MC, I would like, Master of Ceremony, I would like you to give me a minute, I clarify. We have been indicating that our Kiondo was stolen or was granted patent elsewhere. Our Kiondo went nowhere. Our Kiondo is still with us. The reason being, for a patent to be granted, there are 3 requirements. 1, it must be new. So is Kiondo new? No. You know how to make it, or you know, I know how to make it. We cannot get what is in public to give rights to somebody to enjoy the rights. There must be some value addition on what kind of innovation you are seeking or you are getting protected for you to enjoy those rights. So Kiondo never went anywhere. But to date, if you come up with a new machine for making the Kiondo, Kipi will give you the rights for that, but not the end product, the Kiondo, which we know. Thank you.
Apologize for not giving you a chance to share those ideas with us. We thank you for that value addition.
It's not late, it's part of additional, but we will get an opportunity to, even where Kipi staff will be able to share that.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in this middle block? Middle block? We can go to the far right at the back. It's a gentleman at the far back. Anybody else in front here? So we have one more question, and then we are just about to cross. Oh, there's a question here. The last question will be from Professor Maru. Who has the mic? The gentleman at the back? Or you want to talk from there? I saw somebody with a mic here. Somebody has been very kind to you.
Just maybe to add on.
Okay, my name is Davison from the School of Economics. In 2013, the University of Nairobi School of Business did a survey. In 2013, the University of Nairobi School of Business did a survey. And the questions that we asked was, amongst the students, how many are interested in self-employment? And the study discovered that it was 3% of the students at the University of Nairobi were interested in entrepreneurship. I myself was admitted to the School of Entrepreneurship, but after 3 months I quit. The reason of my quitting was those people were teaching us, they had no clue of entrepreneurship. A quick review of their profiles revealed that among us, the tutors, they had no innovation. They have never established any business. So because today the academia met with government, what we are asking is, those people who are teaching should have an experience in that field. I liked what the professor from the School of Engineering said, that he's also practicing civil engineering outside the academia. But when you go to the School of Entrepreneurship, somebody completes undergraduate, gets a first class, goes to master's, earns a PhD, starts teaching. No experience at all in that field of study. So the issue of, also I want to raise the issue of corruption.
So what is your question?
No, I'm just raising some concerns.
Okay, do it quickly.
Another issue is corruption. Hard work these days has become a fool's territory. That is why you no longer talk about entrepreneurship, we're talking about entrepreneurship. I'm sure that is not an alien concept to everybody in this house. So why are the youths moving from innovation going to entrepreneurship? That is what the government knows. Those people at the front there knows why. They have to explain to us. Instead of, because I've tried entrepreneurship, it's a lonely journey. It's not a walk in the park. In fact, it's a walk in the dark. So instead of you sacrificing, while earning $1 million is like a lottery in tenders. So I think you respond to that also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't know whether anybody in front is willing to respond to those challenges, but I want them to respond after the last question is asked. Somewhere here? I hope, are you an entrepreneur or entrepreneur yourself? Out of curiosity. But from the way you talked, seems that you are going towards left instead of right. Just tell us the truth.
Entrepreneurship is like winning a lottery in this country.
Entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship? So which one are you following? No, I won't inform the police. Just confess. We can talk. Yes.
You know, I'm stating the realities as it is.
So you're in which year now?
I'm in third year.
So by fourth year, you have made up your mind?
Maybe.
Give me a call when you're just about to graduate.
Okay.
Yes, the next question.
Hello. Before he goes, maybe I go first. My name is Masika from the School of Engineering, second year student. My question goes to the PS, industrialization. He said about something about the One Village product was rolled some time back, but the main concern or the main impediment to its success was capital. Now, before we try to roll it out again, has there been perhaps a committee that has been tasked to go and look out for what exactly happened so that this project was not a success? So has there been a committee that has gone through and realized that maybe it was only capital that impeded this project's success? And then the second one, you talked about this model having worked in other countries, like, for instance, Japan. How are we tailoring that model to our very own economy?
I think that's the best at the last question. PS, you want to take up the challenge? Please.
I think it's a good start. Entrepreneur, whateverpreneur, there is one thing that we must make sure is we encourage people to do the right thing by following the right ways. The corruption issues must be dealt with, must be fought, but there is one area that I will always insist. As long as you allow discretion in processes, you will bring in those kinds of challenges. However, I will not be the first or the last person to stand here and tell you, yes, there are weaknesses in the system, and yes, there are things that need to be corrected and things that need to be dealt with. But that is not really the overarching image of our country or our reality. Every single morning, hundreds of thousands, millions of young people are getting up in this country and going to do something gainful, something worthwhile, and they are part of the reasons why this country is where it is. Those are the people we need to support. Those are the people we need to encourage. And those others who have not reached a point where they are able to gainfully do anything, we need to give them hope, give them direction, and ensure that there is sufficient legal framework to support people, especially the ones in informality. You know, yesterday we discussed informality to a large extent because many people don't want to come into formal sector because it is expensive to be formal. So it is easier to do a lot of things within the informality realm. We are saying that there is value in making sure that we graduate the informality economy to the formality sphere and start supporting them so that it is not expensive. It is actually beneficial. We need to establish structures that support the micro startups, small, and even ideation, so that the young people who are thinking can think about the moon. They can think, they can imagine, and they also be daring enough to bring those imaginations forward despite the hardship. On the issue of success of OVOP in other countries, I will continue to say that if you produce what you use, you are much better than having the capacity to reach for what you use from somebody else's preparation. If we are going to grow the rural economy, if we are going to grow the general economy, we must train people in the art of production. And we must make production easier. What are we doing to make that happen? We are establishing, the first bit is the incentives. There are enough incentives and there are enough policies, as Professor Ndemo and others have said today, there are enough incentives out there for people to get started. But we also need to bring in technology. We need to bring in information, correct, usable, valuable information that is scientifically sought and that is accurate. For instance, if you want to set up a factory in Narok, or in Kajiado, or in Meru, or in Kitui, for you to do that, you need to have the correct data, the correct information. You need to know, do you have the right communication in terms of roads or other forms of transport? Do you have power if it is necessary? Do you have water if it is necessary? The raw materials, are they available easily? And because of the mapping program that we are carrying on now, we are able to actually establish a database that the young people are able to go to and get the facts that are very important to doing this. And once you do that, then each village, each community starts identifying itself with a certain product. I gave an example yesterday of aflatoxin.
as a problem. But the same aflatoxin is a challenge. If we can get a group of young people come together and form a chain of dryers, so that once the maize or other grains are harvested, they are able to be dried and stored in the right environment. That becomes a very, very powerful business, because due to poor handling, we end up having our millers importing a very large amount of cereals. Yet, we could make sure that the cereals grown here are actually of good quality, because quality does not fall from growing. It falls from harvest to handling. If you look at other areas, aggregation, we find that there are communities that are growing oranges or other fruits, but because they are in small quantities, they are not enough to attract a big concentrate factory or pulp making factory. Yet, if we could set up a collection network, a storage system, and a distribution system, which, by the way, does not require much money, it requires much planning, that would form some very strong aggregation centers that would become very good businesses, and again, opportunities for the youth. So it's not lack of opportunity, it's because we are not sufficiently solving our regular problems. We are very quick at complaining about the problems we are faced with. I think we need to start looking for small ways of naturally, practically, in very rudimentary ways, start solving our own daily challenges. Ikiwa nataka simu, haina shida hata nikianza na kabambe. I don't have to have the top of the line phone if my intention is to just make that call. If I also want to have flour, I don't have to have it wrapped in fancy paper. I just need to make sure it is from good quality maize and it has been ground in clean environment. At the end of the day, clean flour in a paper or clean flour in a bag is clean flour. We need to start thinking practically and start ensuring that we take those steps that fit us. Lastly, MC, and I'm taking too long, lastly, we must start looking inward before we look outward. As a country, we must engage in very strongly supporting businesses that cater for those items that are greatly system. And I like what Professor Bitenge said before he left, that it is the solution for the women who are selling products at the market. That is the kind of solution we need. Not how they are going to export the product because they didn't find the buyers, but rather how they are going to ensure that there is a connection between the product holder and the product consumer. We must look for those value chain gaps and fill them practically. The answer is that the university, so you should tell us if that's good English, but not in a fancy way, but more so in a very simple, practical way. And I believe excellent Professor Iraki is a very practical man, so you allow me to stop there. Thank you.
Yes, I like your crossing words. We must look inward. And I think what you are saying indirectly is charity starts at home. And I think we need to take that courage. P.S., I also thought you'd extend your thoughts and tell us that when you said we need to think big, you should have told us that Elon Musk was born in Africa. And that shows how far we can go as members of this continent. For the students who have been here, I'm sure you tell your friends what they missed. I want to call upon as acting associate dean, not associate dean, but acting executive dean, School of Business, Professor Maru, to give a vote of thanks. For those who asked the questions, thank you very much. And I also must thank, before Professor Maru, the panelists for the patience. Professor Maru.
Thank you very much, Bwana MC. All protocols observed. Our guests, we salute you once again. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the university and on behalf of the organizing committee, I think the organizing committee, there was a Professor Gitao who was to leave. He is the Dean, Faculty of Engineering. Then we also had the team from the ministry. The PS is fully aware, George and the team, I can't see them. I'm speaking on their behalf, and I want to, first and foremost, we thank God, Almighty, for the energy and the patience He has given us to be here, and for the opportunity to partake of this very important discourse. I want to also start by thanking the ministry who actually initiated this. And I remember, Bwana PS, when you wrote to the Vice Chancellor about the idea, he marked it immediately to me and my colleague, Professor Gitao, and we thought this is a great opportunity. Let this be an opening opportunity for more interaction, more ideas in terms of how we can work together. You referred to the triple helix. Of course, there are others who call it a quadruple helix, but it is not about the size of, the sides. It's about the substance of each of the parties involved in the triple helix. And we thank you more sincerely. I also want to, first and foremost, I also thank our Vice Chancellor, and in this case, represented by Professor Hutchinson, more sincerely for accepting. He actually marked it immediately. He said, we are in it. And he marked it and said, can you put the team together? And we got it. We are very appreciative of his interest and support that he has given us to make this day a success. From the Faculty of Business and Management Sciences, I can assure you we will take it further. You've already got the challenge from Professor Bitangendemo, who is one of our colleagues in the faculty. Then, of course, I have to thank the panelists, the key speakers, of course, in their own rights, and then the panelists who have participated. Thank you very much. Indeed, it has been very, very exciting. If we had more time, we would have asked more questions. For instance, I've always had this problem with intellectual property. We tend to focus too much on the protection part. What about the infringement? Can the infringement become a source of innovations? Because we become too possessed with, how can I protect my innovation? Sometimes when you look around, almost everything has been done. For you to do anything, you may start from what others have done. Some bit of infringement before you go to innovate. So let's think widely instead of just thinking narrowly. And I think the discussion and debate has been very, very informative. Indeed, thank you very much, all of you, for your contribution. And of course, to the audience, both the audience in the room here and the audience following us virtually, we are most grateful for your patience and the time you have spent. You could have used this time doing other things, but you found this to be a relevant discussion, and we thank you most sincerely. Otherwise, I want to thank the service providers who have done their work, and they have done a good job. I think we haven't had any technical hitches, and that is indeed a great job. Thank you very much, each one of you. If I have not mentioned somebody who has made some special contribution, please feel thanked. And great evening, everyone. Thank you very much.
Let me take this opportunity to thank the thanker. I call upon the choir to sing the anthems. Then after they have sung the anthems, we shall go out. That's okay, Mr. Orindi, for some photo sessions and then some media engagements. So as soon as the anthems are sung, you are free to take a walk out, and then we can engage now more informally. I was your MC. My name is Iraki. I look forward to further engagement in the university and beyond. Thank you.
We need Director Kipi here for the photography. No, wengine wanafikia from where? From where? From where? Just tell me.
Asampa babe mati, oye.